Hey, it's John Reed. I'm joined by Vinnie Mirchandani, Deal Architect. How's it going, man?
John, always a pleasure to see you.
It's been a while since I did a podcast with you, so this is excellent. You were a good sport about starting out on my podcast series a long time ago. So,
And we were thousands of miles apart, weren't we?
dude, yeah, we did it over the
Good
phone.
to be next to you
It is
in New York
It
City.
is. It is. We are here at Inforum 2016, second day. Going to do a two-part podcast. We're going to talk about the conference, and then I'm going to release a separate one talking about a very exciting new book Vinny's got coming out called Silicon Collar, which is basically about robots, jobs, and you. Many other things. So we're going to get into that because Vinny and I don't always see eye to eye on this, but look forward to hearing about his research. But anyway, we're going to start with Inforum. You've been covering this company for a long time. How would you describe the changes you've seen?
So let's approach it two ways. One is, how is Infor different from some of the other ERP players like SAP, Oracle, and so on? And then where are they in their journey? The vision they've painted, where are they?
Right.
So if you look at Infor and compare them to SAP or Oracle or even the cloud players, the 3 or 4 very significant differentiators they have is, one is they're into a number of verticals that the others either don't seem interested in or just haven't played in, right? So Infor is interested in retail, is interested in healthcare, interested in hospitality, services, right? It's not just manufacturing or distribution type markets. And they're not afraid to talk about what they're doing in healthcare, what they're doing in retail, and so on. So it's been refreshing to see an ERP vendor verticalizing. Okay, so that's one major differentiator for them. The second one is when you look at cloud infrastructure. 4 years ago, they decided, why are we putting money into a data center? Why don't we go with Amazon Web Services?
Right.
So that's been a significant differentiator for them. And, as Charles said a few years ago, friends don't let friends build data centers, right?
Right.
So he's taken some of the money that he would have used to build data centers and plow it back into application functionality, right? So
and you've been a critic of certain ERP vendors that have perhaps overspent on data centers. So
and not gotten much for it as a result, because they're still very poorly run and undersized and so on. A third area where Infor is different is they have a number of human services that they proudly show off. So they've got a hook and loop digital agency, right? It could be an advertising agency that any customer could hire if they need to. They have a value engineering team that does a very sophisticated analysis of, payback and so on, and payback from design projects and so on. They have a group in Cambridge, data wizards, right? Now, every software company needs some talent, but they always try to hide the human aspect, right?
Right.
But Infor has been reasonably visible about a lot of their human services, which leads me to my fourth point. If you walk around the show floor here, you don't see Accenture, you don't see too much IBM, you don't see the big outsourcers here, right? That's another big differentiating here is it's not really, to my SAP Nation thinking,
Right.
I like vendors that don't surround themselves with too much of the labor-intensive model. So, those are 4 things I think where Infor stands out from some of the others.
Right. There's been a stereotype and a perception of Infor as sort of a holding company for ERP graveyard products, essentially. If you go on the ERP graveyard site, Infor actually has like way more even than Oracle that are under its umbrella somehow. But are you essentially
that's
feeling...
a good segue into where's the vision and where's the progress towards that?
So are you feeling that is now an unfair stereotype? Where are we headed with that?
No, I think it's still a fair stereotype because they've got close to 100,000 customers, most of which are still in the legacy brands that you name it, Bon or Sisterline. I mean, God, things that
names you haven't heard in years, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Epiphany and CRM. I mean, they have a lot of that. You can look at it as half full or half empty, right? Those are all customers waiting to be migrated.
Yeah.
Or those are customers that are just brain dead and will never move over. I think those customers are waiting for easier migration. So, they announced here a deal with back office associates. They specialize in moving on-premise customers to the cloud, right? Now, does Infor have everything ready in the cloud? No. But, they're thinking through a lot of those issues better than I think other legacy vendors that have an on-premise customer base.
And their next generation product is known as Cloud Suite. It can get a little confusing because they throw the Cloud Suite label around a little bit, but before this conference, they announced a general availability of financials and supply chain, which is big, right? Because now you're talking about only a handful of companies that really have a pure SaaS financials and supply chain product. Now, I asked Charles Phillips yesterday how many customers. He was a little careful about his answer, but that's legit because it's a new product. But where do you think they should be? Like, how will you chart their progress from here?
I think they need to accelerate the move, both of their own availability in the cloud and their customer base. I mean, there's one of the feelings coming out of here and talking to other analysts is there are very few examples, just like in the financials, of adoption by customers, right? So it's still a nice to have, but they haven't really migrated a large percentage of their customers. That is a challenge. That is something they need to tackle.
So you think migration tools are a key part of it, making it easier?
First, make sure the product is ready, right? And then the migration. They have so many different initiatives going on and so many different verticals that the risk they have is they're making too many announcements and not enough product availability and not enough references.
What I think you find a lot of times with these next-gen releases is that the classic sort of large enterprise customer is not the first one to move, right? Like a lot of times it's edge cases, smaller shops. We did an interview earlier today with a public services company, basically a water company in California, 150 employees. They had made the move to financials. They haven't gone live yet, but so not a classic ERP customer, right? But what was interesting was just kind of pressing him on functionality gaps and hearing that he's pretty happy with the functionality he was finding in the financials. And this is a Lawson user. Now Lawson is written in COBOL, so it's the backside of Lawson is a little archaic, but the functionality is pretty deep in the financials area there. So when you hear something like that, it makes you think that they may be further along in that regard than you might expect as far as the depth of functionality.
But that's just one. You're looking at a horizontal product called financials.
Yeah.
I'm hearing from Infor their Whole Foods retail merchandising strategy. I'm hearing from others about their hospitality strategy. I'm hearing from others about their healthcare. So they have a lot of irons in the fire, right?
Yeah.
And the risk is these are all announcements at this point, or onesie-twosies.
Right.
And they need to, do a better job prioritizing 7, 8 of those initiatives and driving them home a little bit more.
Right. Well, when you can bring people on stage who are essentially winning in their industry, then that tends to cause, I think, a lot of...
Is the product there, though? I'm not convinced the product is completely there in any of those areas.
But I'm just saying in the future, if they can do that, like next year, for example, then, once you see companies that are really, truly post-live and can talk about how this ties into their business cases, right?
Yeah, like when Whole Foods is ready, right? A year or two from now, and they have 2 or 3 other examples. That's going to be... It's going to position them very well in the retail grocery sector, right?
When they started talking about digital transformation, my bullshit detector went off, and that's only because every show I've been to this year, you name it, that's sort of the griddle cakes that are being pushed on stage, right? And yet, a lot of this is real, right? Like this isn't just a marketing fantasy. What is your take on that part?
Well, so, a customer who's kind of embarking on a digital transformation journey, choices are they can go to a Cognizant or an Accenture to help them build that vision. They can go to a IDEO, right, a design firm, and say, where do we start? The product new products or a customer experience. So there are different paths they can take. I think Infor's view is we have a digital agency called Hook and Loop. We have vertical expertise in so many areas. We've got a lot of value engineering work. We've got the building blocks where come to us. Maybe we can show you how to embark on that. Now, they don't want to be a consulting firm, right?
Right.
They'll qualify and see if you're interested in building with them next generation solutions for that industry. When that combination happens, customer is very interested in a deep transformation, not just I want to move to a sentiment analysis, and that's my definition of digital transformation, but a deep business model change, a product change, and so on. Infor wants to position itself as, think of us, don't just go to McKinsey or Accenture, because we've got certain assets.
I don't know, Vinny, if I'm an Infor partner listening to this podcast, I wonder how I fit into this picture.
You have to walk on the show floor and say, there is not a huge bunch of, it's not like Sapphire, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's cyber, there's HCL. There just isn't that much big money around Infor. So, if you want the $50 million projects, keep doing business with SAP.
There you go. The author of SAP Nation speaks up. Okay. It's funny. I didn't think we were going to be able to avoid SAP on this podcast. I just had a funny feeling about that. So just to wrap the digital transformation piece, because that was one of their major announcements, was that they're going to be providing digital services through Hook and Loop. Do you feel that theme resonates with customers? Or in other words, in this industry, is digital transformation more of a vendor creation or is it a reality for customers that they need help with?
I think it varies by industry.
Mm-hmm.
Retail, for example, everyone's scared to death of Amazon. Then no, it's a burning platform.
Yeah.
You go into insurance, maybe not quite as convinced that, hey, the world moves a little bit slower.
Yeah.
So it varies from industry to industry. Now, Infor's challenge is, that is a very strategic project, right? A digital transformation is a boardroom level, CEO level visibility. Right. Would a CEO approve somebody saying, I want to go use Infor rather than using McKinsey for the initial project, or I want to use Infor rather than Accenture?
Right.
I think that is a. Now, good news is they're not looking for 5,000 of those projects. They're looking for one or two in every industry.
Yeah.
I think they can be pretty well positioned.
All right. Well, they say they're doing another Inforum in 14 months, so we'll check back and see. I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation. We're going to shift gears and talk about your book. So let's wrap this. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.